Okay, let's start the meeting. We wouldn't mind. Is everything online, going on
Yeah.
live line? Okay.
Yeah, they
All
can
right.
either go ahead.
Great. Well, welcome everyone to the Utah Watersheds Council meeting. I'm Scott Paxman. I'll be chairing the meeting, and we'll move forward. We'd like to welcome a few people here. First of all, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that Corey Cram has resigned from the council, and Rob, and he represents the Association of Special Districts, and Robert Moore will be taking his place as a representative of the special district. So we appreciate Robert showing up, participating. Good, right? All right. Oh yeah, sure. Yes. And we also have, I don't see any of these people. Rick Smith is a new member from the Weber River Watershed Council. He's newer. Let's see, who else? Anybody? I don't see any of those.
Do you have the proxies?
Oh yeah, I don't. So Soren Simonson is a proxy for Laura Briefer. She's out on some medical leave issues. Let's see, Paul Monroe. I don't see him here. Oh, Paul Monroe is in for Brett Palmer, and Judy Watanabe is in for Chris Hamlet. Great. Okay. Perfect. We also, since this is our first meeting of 2024, we have a couple of expiring terms already, which is really surprising. But there's two expiring terms. Mark Stratford, that represents cities and towns, and Marcel Schut, that represents the environmental and conservation groups. So, well, Mark's on there. Mark.
End of the year, they would.
Oh, it's the end of this year.
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to do it today.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So just to let Marcel know that according to the code, that the governor appoints that position, and he selects from 3 nominations or nominees, and which are selected primarily by the division and department.
Yeah.
Correct? Yes.
So we'd be happy to renominate you if you.
I would be pleased to serve again.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Let's move down the agenda. So we've got the approval of the minutes from October 12th. Has anybody reviewed those and have any comments, questions they would like to share? If not, looking for a motion to accept.
Mr. Chair, I've read
Yes.
them and move that we approve them as presented.
Great. Thank you, Warren.
And I will second that motion.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we were unable to hear that microphone for the motion. Would Warren please repeat that?
I have to remember what I just said. I have read the minutes and move that they be approved as presented. Thank you.
Go ahead.
All right, well, do I need to repeat mine?
Yes.
I would second that motion.
Great. We have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes of October 12th. All in favor of that signify by yay. Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the election of the vice chair. And I know this has gone more than a couple of months, a couple of meetings as far as a vacant vice chair seat. Marcel, do you want to see anything? But what I would like to say is that it's a little cumbersome and a little uncomfortable, I think, for people to have a nomination at the meeting and a vote at the meeting in that same meeting. What I'd really like to see, and talking with others, that nominations take place over the next few weeks, submitted to myself and then we can bring those nominations to the entire council and then vote on them then, instead of kind of the railroad methods that we usually use. Unless we feel like we have to have a vice chair immediately, and I'm open to doing that as well. But what's the feeling of the council? You'd like to have some time to think about nominations, or would you like to move ahead and make nominations at this meeting?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm in favor of the time option that you're presenting. Would you suggest giving us a timetable or a deadline to railroad informally?
Correct. So the next council meeting is April 4th. So I would suggest that by the end of, by March 15th, whatever day that is, March 15th, that we have all the nominations in. And I expect to hear from most of the council members as far as a nomination. I think we need to have some participation here. So let's have more than just one or two nominations. If everybody can submit a nomination to me through email, then I will bring it to the council at the April 4th council meeting. Sorry. Does that sound okay? I don't know that we need a motion on that, but that's what I'd like to do. So I will send out a reminder a week and maybe 2 weeks before that March 15th day, so that we can get participation in that regard. Perfect. All right, the next item is anticipated certification of the Kanab Creek Virgin River Council and the Sevier River Watershed Council. So if we could have the Kanab Council come up, just
Yeah, we have
anywhere
Dave-
to a,
Dave Jessup's here.
Dave, wherever you can find a mic, maybe here or here.
And then also Scott Taylor and Mindy Meese are online.
Perfect. Oh, just 1 second. Okay.
So the chair's here in person and these are online.
Oh, that's, they're all from the
Yeah.
Kanab Creek Virgin River. So we've got Dave Jessup, who's the chair, Scott Taylor, vice chair, and Mindy Meese, who's the assistant to the council, all from the Kanab Creek Virgin River. So Dave, if you wouldn't mind just going through your application and just briefly, and just talking about any of the changes that you've made to the standard form, and talk about your council members briefly, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, I can do that. Let me get this brought up. I apologize, I'm getting the,
No problem.
thought I had it up.
Hope everybody's had a chance to just review these two letters and applications. They've done a great job, I think, in putting things together here, and their membership and participation, I think, in their local councils.
And
Remarkable.
thanks to Mindy Meese, she's online, she's done most of the work on putting this together. So you want a summary or a
Very brief summary.
description on the members? What?
Yes, both, yes. So just a summary of kind of the council in general, and then a description of who's representing who on the council.
Okay, and I can just, go through this. So we have Elaine York, she's the Water Department Habitat and Environments. Travis Duran is with the Indian Tribes section. Stacy Young with Industry. Scott Taylor with Public Works, or Public Water Suppliers. Zach Renstrom, Water Planning and Research. Bree Thompson, Water Quality. Jane Whalen, Fish and Wildlife. Mike Noel with Agriculture. Myself, Dave Jessup, Watershed Management. Mac Hall, Mutual Irrigation Companies. Brock Belknap with Local Sponsor and Reclamation Projects. Steve Meismer with Fish and Wildlife. Ed Bowler with private property owners, and Leslie Fonger with tourism. And,
Great.
yeah,
So just one comment that I had before we go to the council. So in the letter, it indicated that there were 15, representing 15 areas of stakeholder interests. And when I looked at the application, I could only see 13, unless I'm mistaken. There could have been a doubling up of some of them.
so, and have to maybe call on Mindy to help me here. I believe we had 2 that we couldn't get confirmation that they would accept those positions. Mindy, is that, am I getting that correctly? Oh, she's muted, or if she can hear me. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
She was the one, she was helping me put this together.
Looks like she's not muted, but we're not hearing anything.
Oh, okay. And I remember Scott Taylor, he's online, he's the, on our committee as well. But I believe we had a couple that we weren't able to fill, but they weren't part of the critical
Okay,
the critical categories to be filled,
okay, understood. Yep,
if that makes sense.
yep, does. Thank you. Any other comments, questions from the council? Rick, do you have something?
Yeah, I was curious, just again, 15 areas of interest, that seemed higher than most other entities. I don't know if that's too many or if that's, and the other question I had too is there were several from the Washington County Water Conservancy District. Again, I don't know if that's overrepresentation or not, but it's something to consider. And then the other question I had was about the liaisons with the state and federal agencies. I didn't really see a list. I know several other ones reference the different outside parties that also are liaisons, unless I missed it.
Mike Noel was our liaison there. We had him in the agriculture category, but he was also the elected or the chosen person for the liaison with the state.
Okay.
And in terms of the water district personnel, it's finding the arms to twist to get them to fulfill these positions, and whatnot. But hey, if that is an issue, we can do our best to find others. It's kind of fun to twist those arms.
Mr. Chair, if I may, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Rick, the liaisons are intended to be representative of state and federal agencies that aren't serving on the board.
Right,
the
but several
council.
of the documents actually reference who is attending or will be attending in that representation, I guess, or liaison
Yeah,
category.
I think maybe there's a little confusion. The liaisons are working with the local councils.
Right.
And they aren't official members of the council, so they aren't really on any official roster. But we do list them in our documentation just for reference.
Okay.
So I hope that's not causing confusion.
No, I think I've seen others where they say, okay, here's all the liaisons to our agency or to our group, but not members. So,
If you're talking about the representative on this council,
Yes.
that person is appointed and they have to be elected by the council. And were you saying that was Mike Noel? Is that what you meant?
That's what I understood as well.
Yeah,
Noel.
I believe that's correct.
So you're here filling in for him because he wasn't able to come? or-
He said he was going to attend online, on virtual.
Yeah, don't see him yet.
Don't see him yet, but he wasn't able to make it in person.
2 other quick ones, if that's okay.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
So on the documentation, also talked about a need for a Great Salt Lake representative, which obviously wouldn't be applicable in this case. And then I saw Ed Bowler, he was in, I can't remember if it was the letter or the document, somewhere he wasn't in the letter, but then was in the document or vice versa.
Oh,
I just don't have a copy of it in front of me,
It was in the document, not the letter.
not the letter, okay. Again, I think he also is a member of the board, right, for Washington County.
yes. Yep, he is.
Any other comments? Yeah,
I had one.
Marcel.
I thought Warren had one. I thought Warren
I
raised
did
his
too.
hands before me.
Mr. Chair, we show Ricky has raised her hand.
Okay. Marcel,
Yeah, I did have a,
oh, go ahead, Ricky.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Ricky.
did have a question about understanding some of the industry representation, as well as the tourism representation. Can you share who these, like what entities these individuals, Leslie and Stacy, are associated with?
I don't know the answer to that.
I have it here in your letter, so.
Okay, thank you.
Stacy Young represents the Southern Utah Home Builders Association,
That's right.
and Leslie Fonger, Greater Zion.
Okay. Yep.
Marcel?
Hi, thanks. Having been on one of the early, in the working group that helped draft the legislation and coming up with a list of representation, I think, the concept was to get as diverse as representation as possible. And I completely understand when, getting these watershed councils up to speed to begin with, how hard it is to get people to serve. And I wonder if maybe one thing that would be helpful as part of forward thinking is if the councils can think about, again, how they can continue to diversify the membership, because I had the same reaction that Rick did, that it looks like there's, 3 or 4 from
Probably 4.
from one entity, and that might, I don't know how that affects things, and I didn't look closely enough at your voting strategy to mean that one entity kind of is overrepresented in any kind of voting, but I don't know that you're going to have that many votes where that's going to matter. I just would encourage the opportunity for, hopefully you can get more people ready to step up to the
Yeah.
plate long term.
Yeah,
So.
integrate some of those diversities would be great as time goes on. And Warren, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Rick's question. The federal liaisons and so on, they're there as advisors, and they're not essential, so we're okay then. But I did have a question, and that is the represent local sponsors of reclamation projects. So that shows up as, Washington County Water Conservancy District does have reclamation component to their. Do I understand that correctly? There you are. Yeah.
Apologize.
So, frankly, I was not aware that the Washington County Water Conservancy District was a sponsor of a reclamation project. Are we okay there?
Now, is Bree's our Associate General Manager, Bree Thompson, do we see her online?
I don't.
Okay. We have different projects that we do. I'd have to get back with you on. I know we do lots of different projects and involve the Bureau of Rec, but.
Yeah, I would expect on this particular watershed that it would make sense to just skip that one if there aren't any.
Right, yeah.
If there are no reclamation sponsors, no reclamation projects, and I think that's what this Sevier River did, was just skipped over that one.
Yeah.
So it might help, this diversity question, it might help to just replace that one with a,
Okay, yeah, we can.
with some other area, some other stakeholder representation.
There's Mike.
Yes, Mike is on now.
There he is.
Mike?
Let me comment on that.
Yeah,
if I
go
could.
ahead.
Yeah, they do have a reclamation project. Lake Powell Pipeline is
That's what
definitely
I
a
was just going to
reclamation
mention.
project.
They're not a sponsor yet, but they do have a project working with the reclamation.
Okay.
Yes, we've been working with them for a lot of years, so, and we're involved with that project too, so both of us have that.
Okay.
Yes.
Answers my question. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
That-
Thank you. Ricky, you've had your hand up, right?
I do, thanks. Just a little follow-up. Happy to have the home builders there with Stacy Young represented. I would just encourage, as you think about filling that industry seat, if you wanted to also think about additional industry interests that are water users in the area. I know there's a lot of natural resource interest and activity in that area as well that might be an additional representation that you could think about in the future.
Gotcha, thank you.
Suggestion. Okay, any other comments, questions? Warren, please.
You know, the other question I have would be, I noticed Marty was here and now he stepped out. Okay, you're Marty
Filling
today,
in.
Todd?
Yeah, I've had a conversation with Marty about their organizing documents. He has reviewed them and found them acceptable.
All right.
There were a few references from the template to Great Salt Lake Basin, like Rick said, that we
Right.
would recommend they take out if they want to, but it's not essential. So we will forward those then to them.
Yeah, if I noticed that, and if the Virgin River is tributary to the Great Salt Lake, I assume that's through the hydrologic cycle.
That's right. Exactly.
All right. Well, if we're ready for a motion on this,
I believe we are.
then I would move we certify the, okay, help me, the Kanab Creek Virgin River Watershed Council based on their application for certification.
I'll second that.
Great. We have a motion and a second for the certification of the Kanab Creek and Virgin River Council. Any comments or discussion on that motion?
Yeah, now, did I understand that Mike Noel will be their representative to the State Watershed Council?
Correct. That's how it's stated in the letter. Yes.
I thought long and hard about that one, and I think he's up to it, so, okay.
I might just add, it's great to see outside of the Great Salt Lake Basin, some of these watershed councils moving forward.
Absolutely.
Really,
Yeah.
really exciting. I
Yes, it
appreciate
is.
all the work that's gone to make this happen.
Yeah, it is an effort, and we appreciate the involvement that it takes to get that together.
I thought I'd at least hear from Noel on that one, but he just held his peace, so.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm out at my ranch and we're having trouble with the Wi-Fi here today, so I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, I appreciate you guys going ahead and approving that. We definitely are very excited about this Watershed Council and the work that's been done on that, and especially grateful to work with Warren Peterson. My only relationship with him is he sold all our water, so anytime I get a little back, it's helpful.
There you go.
Just kidding, Warren.
Hey,
That's what everybody said, man. Delta stole our water, and Philo Farnsworth is our hero. Okay, so
all right. As long as we got all that on the record, Mike, we're good.
That's right.
just kidding.
Okay, if there are no other comments or questions on that motion, we'll put the motion to a vote. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same. Okay.
Do we need a roll call vote from those that are online?
Not necessarily. If we don't see any negatives, yeah. So motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is the Sevier River Watershed Council. Let me pull that one up.
I'm here to help do that.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Andy Nickel. and
Andy.
I'm
Oh, awesome.
here for the Sevier River Watershed Council.
Great. Okay, Andy, if you wouldn't mind just kind of stepping us through your council and the documents, if you wouldn't mind, and those that you have on there.
So we met on January 4th, and at the meeting that day was Dustin Christensen. He's representing Richfield Canal Company. Brett Bunker was there representing Delta City Council and the Farm Bureau. Trevor Barneson was there also representing the Farm Bureau. For the watershed management, we have Chad Anderson for the Richfield Canal Company as well. Fulfilling the industry role, we have Blaine Ipson. He sits on the Sevier River Water Users Association, and he's also involved with the Intermountain Power Project.
Great.
For water planning and research, we have Jody Gale from Utah State University Extension. For water quality, Kelly Carter from Delta City Council. Representing mutual irrigation companies, Matthew Mills for the Otter Creek Water Company, Jared Smith representing the DMAD companies, Mike Larson from the Ephraim Irrigation Company and the Sand Pitch Board, and McKay Morgan for the Circleville Irrigation. For the Indian tribes, we invited both Karina Bow representing the Paiute tribe and Emery. I'm not going to try to say that last name because for the Hopi tribe. Fish and Wildlife, we have Zach Sampson from Ducks Unlimited. For the local sponsor of reclamation projects, Mike Roberts from the Sevier River Water Users Association Board. Public water supplier Keith Morgan, Richfield City Public Works. For water-dependent habitats, myself representing Melville Irrigation Company and the Lower Users Reservoirs, and Lonnie Hammond representing Paiute Irrigation. In setting up the council, we tried to get both as many different geographic areas and as many different users as we could. Where the Sevier River is somewhat unique in our lower users versus our upper users, we tried to get equal representation from each area and fulfill as many as the required seats as we could.
Awesome.
The liaisons to the council are not listed, but offers have been extended to every county commission along the river, and as well as Representative Carl Albrecht is who I'm told we would.
Good. Very good. Awesome. We got a great council there. And so I understand that you are the chair,
Yes.
have been designated as the chair. And the representative, yeah, for this
And I'm
council.
also, yes, the liaison to the state.
Good. Okay, any questions, comments?
Mike Noel, I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
That's for you to answer.
I don't think we got involved with this, but we do have a significant amount of water users on the Sevier. We have over 3,000 service connections on Cedar Mountain. That's all Sevier River water, and we have a few other farm users. I know there's, some people in Kane County that we had one person that may serve on that, but can we at least have a placeholder there for the Kane County Water Conservancy District, because that's our service area. And I don't know if that's possible at this point or.
You're more than welcome to attend their council and have that discussion with their council. I think that's a great thing to do.
Okay. Yeah, we'd like to be involved with that if we can. Just, and I do have a board member that's interested. Either Mike Kenner or Farrell Heaton would be the ones, but I'll come to if we can get invited to that, I'm fine with what's going on here, but if we could, we do have significant water rights in that area.
Great, good comment, Mike. I appreciate that. Okay, Warren.
Yeah, I wanted to amplify on one thing Andy said. It's very important and sometimes difficult to get representations from different portions of the river system. And if you look at it's unusual that this group comes in with 4 mutual irrigation company representatives. But if you look at where these people are from, it makes perfect sense. Because on the Sevier, you've got the upper main stem, the lower main stem. And so you've got DMAD, Jared Smith with DMAD, and you've got Otter Creek, you got which is East Branch, and you got Circleville, which is Upper Sevier, and you've also got the Sandpitch River with Mike Larson, and the people that are there are good, engaged members of the water community, but you've got a good geographic spread through the river.
Very diverse. Yeah, that's great.
So it's I think well put together.
That's very good. Okay, any other comments? Rick?
When I went through it, I didn't notice the members in the actual document and their terms. So I don't know if that's something that needs to be corrected.
That's what I thought as well. Yeah, it was blank, right? The form was blank, so if we could get that filled out and submitted, that would be.
In the cover letter, they are there.
They are there, yes, yep. But not in the document itself.
Yeah, it needs to be there. So
Yeah. Let's see, I was just seeing if you had any other comments.
I'm going to defer in case someone else wants, but I would be inclined to move to approve the application or to certify this council based on their application with the condition that they move the items
The designees.
in the letter, over into the actual governing
Great.
document.
Great.
And do we want staggering terms as well, or define those?
They've listed those staggering terms.
Listed staggered terms.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, we have a raised hand by Mr. Noel.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question. Was there anybody from Garfield County on that council?
Yeah.
McKay Morgan. Yes, McKay Morgan from Circleville.
Okay. So I'm sure you're familiar that there's a push right now to rebuild the Hatchtown Dam. I just wanted to make sure that someone was on there because that's going to come up, I know. And I'm sure it's going to be quite controversial, but I think it'd be a good idea to have somebody. So that's great. You've got Garfield County.
You've heard
Thank
that
you.
rumor too.
That's all I had.
Yes, I've heard of that.
Okay, if there aren't any other comments, we've got a motion on the table for certification of this council,
I'll second that motion.
and we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion before I call?
If I may, Mr. Chair, Chairman Paxman, Marty did review this one as well and found only minor editorial things that could be cleaned up, as well as the blank table of things, but other than that, he was good.
Good, thank you. Keep forgetting to ask.
Sure. Let me ask the question, would the motion be better to assume that, or just to say, approve it, give certification with this list incorporated as part of the document? Would that be the better form of the motion? If so, that's the motion I would make.
I think that would be fine. I think that either way is great. Because they've already submitted it, so it's not like they haven't submitted it. So, yeah. Yeah, good point. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 You can stay right here because you remember that.
Any opposed to the motion? It is unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Mike, did you have another comment? Sorry.
Oh, no, I got to take my hand down. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Well, again, congratulations to those two watershed councils, local councils. We really greatly appreciate your efforts, and hopefully, I mean, the intent is that this will be a great value to the communities that these councils serve going forward. So, all right, next on the agenda is a follow-up and full certification of the West Desert and Jordan River Watershed Councils. Can you remind us, Todd, what the follow-up was on those two?
Yeah, I'll do my best to remember that. I know on the West Desert, they were asked to designate a tribal member, which they have done, and they're looking at a second tribal member that has not yet agreed, but they're trying to fill a second one as well. So they meet that requirement. And then there were some adjustments to their organizing documents we wanted them to make,
Okay,
and those have been done. So
they have been done.
Marty has reviewed that, and he says they're good to go.
Great. Good. So let's act on that one first. Did the council get a copy of those? Of the improvements, the follow-ups?
Yeah, I think last week, so it wasn't a lot of time, but
Okay, I
yeah.
didn't see those. All right, perfect. So if we can act on the West Desert Watershed Council first, that would be great. So I'm looking for a motion for full certification.
Mr. Chair. Oh, go ahead.
I'll second. Marcel, go ahead.
Thank you, Sterling. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that we approve the updated version of the West Desert organizing documents and certify them as a member.
Very good.
Or maybe they're not a member, but certify them as a watershed council.
Great.
Thank you.
And we have a second?
Sterling Brown will second.
Great. Motion and second. Any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And then the Jordan River Watershed Council.
Yeah, so we asked for some adjustments to their bylaws because they're incorporating this into the Jordan River Commission's bylaws. So there was a few things we wanted to clarify. We've given it another look and feel good about it. And I don't think there was any other requirements. Carly, am I mistaken on that one? Okay, so our recommendation is that you would certify them today.
Great. Any comments from Soren Group?
We are anticipating adding a couple of other members to our Watershed Council, both kind of representing industry. Right now we have Rocky Mountain Power is our only industry representative. I won't specifically reference those because they're still ongoing discussions, but we have a couple of open seats and we'd like to fill those with industry representatives. I'll just add for those that are new, the Jordan River Watershed Council is looking at incorporating or certifying as an existing organization, which is a little bit unique among watershed councils. The Jordan River Commission is a body doing very similar work, although additional things beyond the focus of the Watershed Council. So we're certifying an existing organization, and we've had a little bit of back and forth trying to make that fit within the structure of the Watershed Council Act. I've invited Eric McCulley, who is also the chair of our local Watershed Council. Eric, I don't know if you have any additional comments or anything you want to say.
No, we appreciate the opportunity to, kind of get through the process, and we feel like we've achieved all the marks that were set for us, and glad to be here.
No, we appreciate the commission actually doing a lot of the legwork in becoming, I guess, doing a lot of things just to try to fit the mold of the Watershed Council. So I think it's good on both sides for sure. Thank you. All right, with that, looking for a motion for full certification of the Jordan River Council.
I would make that motion to certify the Jordan River Watershed Council.
Nathan Dodds.
This is Mark Stratford. I'll second that.
And Mark Stratford with the second. Any further discussion on the motion before the vote? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition. Passes favorably. Thank you. Very good. So we've got 4 new certified watershed councils. Awesome.
Mr. Chair, before we go on to the next item, there's an administrative thing I'd like to bring to our attention. Yes. We did introduce Soren, Paul Monroe, and Judy Watanabe as filling in for people. We just wanted to let the full council know that they did notify us in advance that they would be serving as proxies for this meeting. So just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you.
So appreciate that their votes are counted towards.
Great. I appreciate that. Okay, next we have a presentation from the Agricultural Water Optimization Program. Hannah Fries has volunteered to yeah.
Voluntold, yes.
To give us a presentation on that program. So thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be with you to talk about the work that we're doing through the Department of Ag and Food on the Agricultural Water Optimization Program. So you can go ahead and just advance that slide for me, and I'll talk through really quickly.
I'm gonna have to fix this. So.
Oh yeah, you're just fine.
I escaped.
We love.
Is that all right with you? It wasn't working the other way.
That's just fine. Yeah, you can just advance to that next slide if you would for me. That'd be great. So if any of you are working with agricultural water users, first and foremost, we'd like to inform you all that our current application period is open for the water optimization program. We're accepting applications online through a program called Submittable, and this will be a $30 million opportunity that we're offering the agricultural water user community. That $30 million was settled upon by the Ag Water Optimization Committee as part of Senate Bill 277. A portion of the $200 million that we were awarded was ARPA funding. And so we would like that, and that is $30 million, which we would need to get under contract quickly, quicker than the state money. So we're looking to get that $30 million under contract with this next opportunity. Our ranking will be completed by the Water Optimization Committee. We've had a ranking committee in the past on projects, and now we'll move to having the newly formed Ag Optimization Committee, whom I'll introduce to you in just a moment. They'll be ranking projects, and we're anticipating awarding grants in March. We are working towards that deadline so that if ag water users are interested in doing spring work, they'll have the opportunity to start some of that work before the irrigation season happens. So if any of you are interested or work with water users that are interested in applying for a program, we would direct you to myself, or our website has a big banner that says apply here, and we have planners around the state that are available to help those producers get signed up for the program. Thank you. So just to talk about some of the priorities and the program criteria that we're operating with. Water optimization is a statewide program, and it was established to essentially be everything for everyone. And so we try to keep that in consideration. We know that there are a lot of concerns around Great Salt Lake. There also are concerns on the Colorado River, the Sevier, like you just talked about, and then our friends in southern Utah looking at critical groundwater management areas. And so we try to give a nod to all of those priority areas that are very diverse around the state. So as we look at the program criteria, the Water Optimization Committee made some changes to the program for this funding period as we have moved forward. The biggest change that we made as a committee is to separate canal companies or irrigation companies from on-farm projects. So canal or irrigation companies can apply separately from on-farm. Canal and irrigation companies can also request up to $1 million cost share, and on-farm projects can request up to $500,000. So we bumped that up, and if any of you are familiar with those canal projects, sometimes even $1 million is just a drop in the bucket. So we wanted to be able to help them implement phases as they go along with canal work. Canal and irrigation companies are also required to have a water loss study, so to be able to have evaluated their canal, and we just want them to take some time in the planning process to go through that and see where high priority areas are on their canal and go through a planning process. And if a company does not have a water loss study, the Ag Optimization Program can pay for 50% of the cost of one if they'd like to start there and start the planning process with us. All applicants are required with this new legislation that we're operating under. All applicants are required to have a pre-consultation with the Division of Water Rights to identify any potential saved water. I'm sure all of you have been very aware of the changes that have been happening there with the saved water component. And so far, so good. It's going really well. We have about, I'll share with you, close to 200 applications pending. And in visiting with Division of Water Rights, they've done about 150 consultations. So we're meeting those numbers pretty equally. A lot of those pre-consultations have just been a quick phone call. A lot of our producers are just shareholders, not water right holders. And so canal companies would be the one that would be looking at doing change applications if they're interested in doing that. All projects are required, still continue to be required to have a real-time flow meter on their projects. This is the first opportunity we've ever taken in the state to meter agricultural water use at the farm level. Irrigation companies are metered when they're taking water from reservoirs and their storage bodies. But as we move forward with this program, we're metering projects on farm and collecting that data real time. On-farm projects are limited, like I said, to $500,000 regardless of the number of applications. So if we have a farmer that's interested in working on several fields, they can put in multiple applications. And then our ranking priorities were set by the Water Optimization Committee. And some of those priorities include the project type. So we're looking at projects that have a depletion savings. We're looking at projects that may have a diversion savings. The project location, so we're looking at Great Salt Lake Basin, also critical groundwater management areas, Colorado River Basin. So just kind of a snapshot of some of the priorities that the committee has set. And then just of note, as we work through our applications, the largest volume of applications that we get in the state are from Cache, Weber, and Box Elder counties. More than half of the statewide applications come from those 3 counties alone. And then the next largest group is out in the Uinta Basin. And so we have that going on. Just really briefly, here is the committee that was set forth in Senate Bill 277 that we have serving. William Merkley is our Water Conservancy District representative and also serves as a liaison for the Uinta Basin. Jason Morgan represents our conservation districts. Jeff Hardy serves as our vice chair. He also is the president of Bear River Canal Company and is our Northern Utah Ag representative. Brett Bunker serves as our chairman in Central Utah. And then Brandon Yardley serves as our Southern Utah Ag representative. And so I'm very appreciative. Jason, Jeff, Brett, and Brandon all make their living solely from agriculture. So we're very appreciative of them helping to steer the committee to make it a program that is viable for agriculture as well. And so if you want to advance that, and then I'll just quickly introduce our water optimization staff to you. Oh, yes. Yes, please. You can go back one. Turn on your mic, Warren.
All right, microphone is on. I just wanted to connect the dots. That Brett Bunker you see as the chair of the Ag Optimization is the same Brett Bunker on Andy's Central or Sevier River Committee. So,
isn't it the joke if you say yes once, then you say yes to everything?
Well, and it's okay to all be on the same team, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
We only have one team.
One team.
Just
That's
spread
right.
around. Yep. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Warren. And yes, just really quick to introduce our water optimization staff. One change that I made as when I took this position back in April is to spread the staff out around the state where we have our applications coming from, and to put our conservation planners in those strategic locations to be able to better serve our producers. So we have Nick Coffey, who's located in the Logan NRCS office and covers those counties you can see there. Ben Law is located over in Box Elder County in the Tremonton field office. Hayes Mills is located in the Richfield office and covers all the southern counties of the state. And then Tanner Mills covers the Uinta Basin and the Colorado River counties as well. And so I can't credit our planners enough for the work that they've done to be able to get applications and just be a resource to our producers around the state. So I'm very appreciative to them. And then just to talk really briefly about some of the work that we've been doing. So far, since the program started in 2019, we have funded a total of 330 projects. If you've seen past presentations that I've done, that number fluctuates up and down. We do have some projects that end up having to cancel, usually due to economic hardship. So that number kind of bounces around, but as of Tuesday, we've funded 330 projects. Of those projects that we have funded, we have 98 that have been fully completed. We had quite a large number of projects that got completed this fall since we had such nice weather for so long to be able to put those projects in. And then 24 of the fully completed projects have been in use for one full irrigation season. The reason that number is significant is because after the project is completed and has been in use for a full irrigation season, that's when we start requiring annual reporting of their water usage. If any of you saw or heard about the audit that we just underwent with the governor's office, they dinged the water optimization program for not getting annual reports. I just like to point out that this is the reason why we have so few. We have so few projects that have not only been done, but also been in use for a whole season. And so we're just barely beginning. We're just barely beginning the work. We're just barely beginning to get information on the effectiveness of these projects, where the water is being used and how much water is being used. So we've contracted to date about $64 million, and then we've paid out about $20 million as projects have been completed. So like I mentioned, we're just very early on in our project completion. Just to highlight a few of the projects that we've done, it is so variable around the state. It's been a wonderful opportunity for us to help agriculture all around the state and find such value in irrigation efficient projects. So we've done things, just our standard pivots and will lines. Up in the northern part of the country, we like to do these pipe and riser systems. We've had the opportunity to do a lot of work with our canal companies and lining canals and pressurizing canals and piping canals so that those can be more efficient. We've done work with drip systems, and we've done a lot of work with automation so that we can be more high tech in our water delivery systems and be able to more effectively and accurately measure the water that's being delivered and deliver the water more accurately to our ag water users. And we find a whole lot of value in the increased efficiency. There's a lot of value in those systems helping our ag community to be drought resilient, which benefits all of us as we are all more drought resilient. So where we're at today, I put this slide together on Tuesday that says we have 24 applications submitted, just to show you we're in the last couple of weeks of our application period. So as of this morning, we have 82 applications that have been submitted. We anticipate that number to continue to jump and jump. The pending applications is about 225 as well. And so we're seeing a wide range of project types that are interested in the program. Pivot projects that are looking at those low elevation sprinklers or the low pressure sprinkler nozzle packages. Wheel lines, we have a company out of northern Utah that is rallied a lot of farmers to try some subsurface drip systems. So we're seeing several of those applications come in. Pipe and riser systems up in northern Utah. And we have projects that are interested in telemetry and then just general drip irrigation projects as well. So a good spread across the state that we're excited about. And then lastly, oh yeah, you can go back. No, I'm sorry, I talk really fast and I'm nervous.
Microphone.
You talk faster than I can. Way to go. On your last slide there.
Warren, you need to talk into your mic.
Yeah, all right. One more time. On your previous slide, you had the one there that said micro irrigation. Is that microjet or is that, that's
Yeah, for an orchard.
Orchard.
Yep, so
okay.
just those microjet
Okay, good.
sprinkler heads, yes.
Thank you.
And then this slide I lovingly stole from Warren, and I love to share it any chance I get the opportunity about alfalfa, that we feel strongly at the Department of Ag to be able to educate our fellow Utahns about alfalfa and why we grow it, that it is not the green plague, but such a valuable ag commodity in our state. So briefly, I'll just run through all the bullet points that alfalfa checks for us. It is a desert plant and is very drought tolerant. You can neglect alfalfa quite often and it still produces a very high yielding crop. It's a perennial, so it saves on the cost and our carbon footprint of planting or doing tractor work routinely in our fields. It's better for our air quality when compared to annual crops that are planted every year. Alfalfa is very water efficient in terms of the calories, protein, and fiber we get out of the feed for our livestock. And it is perfectly suited to Utah's climate. The temperature variations improve the forage quality of alfalfa. It does well in a dry climate. It loves heat and sunlight and salty soils, which we can check all of those boxes here. Alfalfa you can have multiple harvests per year, which is great for the cash flow of our farmers. It fixes nitrogen, so oftentimes we have, it builds nitrogen in the soil. A lot of our producers, when they're rotating out of alfalfa into a corn or a wheat crop, don't even apply nitrogen fertilizer that next year because it fixes that much in the soil. Helps control wind and water erosion. We have wonderfully established markets locally, nationally, and internationally. It's naturally pest tolerant, and it has a low risk of becoming invasive, unlike some of our other perennial forages like kochia and amaranth on there. We have wonderful labor markets for alfalfa. It doesn't have a huge labor requirement as well. And I get asked quite often, and you may have all heard, why don't we just grow something else, grow something other than alfalfa or something that we can eat as humans? And it's not just a light switch. We don't have a lot of the processing facilities we need to be able to harvest fresh produce quickly. And so I like to direct everybody, if you're a geek like me, if you get online and YouTube a lettuce harvest in California, it's absolutely amazing. It's like a whole warehouse out behind a tractor. And so some of the labor requirements to do that, we don't have much of those available here. So we love alfalfa in the ag industry. It is the crop that we want to grow for all of these reasons. We can't just grow it anywhere else. Can't grow it in the Midwest because we can't get it dry. It stores really well, and we just have a wonderful reputation for doing it, and it's a huge value to our farmers here in the state. And then lastly, I'm sure you've seen this slide. I love to share this slide to just keep in context about the water that our ag community is using and the difference that we can make through the Ag Water Optimization Program as we increase our irrigation efficiency. You can see the mean annual precipitation for Utah is about 61 million acre feet, and the amount diverted each year for municipal, industrial, and agriculture, so all human use, is about 7.7% of that total amount that we get. And the rest remains in nature. Of that 7.7, this is where you see the 80% number, or hear the 80% number of ag irrigation usage. So 80% of the 7.7% is used in agriculture, about 3.7 million acre feet. And so I just like to always take the opportunity to thank our producers for participating in this program. We know we all as taxpayers have made a huge investment in water optimization, and that investment is intended to fund half of the project cost. And I always like to point out that the other half of the projects are funded out of the pocket of our producers, and they are stepping up to the table to help be part of the solution, understand the severity and the depth of the problems that we face in the state of Utah, and they're coming to the table to help as well. And so I'm very grateful to be able to work with them through this program. So with that, if you want to you can put up my contact information. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Anna, do you have any guess with the 200 whatever applications you have in this year of how many millions that's going to be requesting?
I don't have a guess right now, but we will have that as we go to committee. Once our applications close, we'll be able to have that lined out about the dollar amounts that are associated with those.
And in the past funding cycles, other than the projects that either didn't meet the requirements or weren't eligible, how many millions over request do you have of what funding have been available in the past?
Usually double. So last funding cycle, we had 19 million available to spend out in ARPA, and we had 45 million in requests.
So you anticipate this year 30 million, so you've got 170 left, assuming you contract the 30, which it sounds like you will.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate doing a similar amount for the next 6 or 7 years till that 200 million is gone?
Yeah.
Or the demand is gone, if that ever happens?
Yeah, I think that'll be a decision for the committee. One thing I would like to suggest to the committee is we look at setting aside the specific pot of money for canal companies so it doesn't take away. So we'll have to maybe either divide that 30 million or take some of the state money and let all the 30 million go to on-farm projects. Maybe a mix of both of those, so.
Yes, Sterling.
Hannah, did I understand that the money only can go to canal companies or on-farm operators? In other words, state or federal projects are excluded from this money, is that correct?
No, the stipulation is agricultural water users. So we partner a lot on state and federal projects for private canal companies, privately owned irrigation companies. Yeah. So the stipulation is ag water users.
So a federal project that is used for agriculture purposes, would that be?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. I think you might have had a hand online.
Yeah, Mike Noel online has his hand raised.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yes. Hannah, that was a great presentation, and especially the part about alfalfa and how important it is to the state of Utah. And I'm down here in southern Utah in Kanab, and you can the alfalfa for us is huge because most of our cattle are on public lands 10 months out of the year, and then for 2 months, especially replacement heifers, and we have to supplement with alfalfa hay. So it's very, very important that we keep that. And we get a lot of negative comments from environmental groups, river users that were wasting all of their money, wasting money growing alfalfa in a desert, and they just don't understand. So that's extremely important. What you explained this last year, not this year, I mean the year before last, alfalfa hay, premium hay was selling for $400 a ton. It's gone way down this year. I think we've lost some of the foreign markets, but it's still extremely valuable. My question is, we've been working on the Cove Reservoir. It's a 6,000 acre foot reservoir, and it's for the agriculture, Orderville, Glendale, Mount Carmel area. We're on an NRCS 566 program. Could we match some of that with this money? Would that be possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, we would encourage you to do so. We've done that on many of those 566, PL 566 projects. So yes, we would love to be able to partner with you on that.
And Washington County also is involved. They're also a partner in the reservoir. This was a project that was approved when we sued the Department of Interior in Zion National Park. It was a settlement with Bruce Babbitt and the department and the Park Service. So the state signed off on it, the governor and the head of water resources, and did. So yeah, I'd like to get with you after this call, but that was an excellent. If I can get those comments from you, we'll use them in the EIS that we're preparing for this. So thanks so much, Hannah. That was great information.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good comments, Mike. Any other comments or questions? Warren?
I think.
Oh,
Go ahead, Warren.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Warren.
My microphone is on.
Nice. Good job.
Well, one thing that, ain't nobody ever said that was really well done when I gave the alfalfa list, but when you did it, Hannah, so it's in the right hands now. The thing I wanted to offer is that one of the things we've been concerned about as the Utah Department of Ag and Food and State Engineer and others have worked on implementing ag water optimization projects is there isn't really a how-to manual, but Utah Department of Ag and Food have been working diligently with their planners to help set this up. I think that's a fair statement, isn't it, Hannah?
Yeah.
So there is an RFA that Representative Owens has been putting together. It's the one that was reported in the news as the new split season leasing statute.
Yes.
That isn't new at all.
Right. Right.
That's what happens. In fairness to Fox 13, they were trying to tell the story and did a fairly decent job of it. But what's really afoot there is a request for appropriations for Utah Department of Ag and Food, Utah State University, and particularly Extension, to put together how-to manuals for farmers so that they have all the information they need in one place to look at what did they do about what kind of equipment do they use, what kind of money does it take, what did they do to work with their local with the irrigation company or wherever their water source is. So how do they work through that, whether they work through the company and then the company files the necessary change applications, or whether the farmer does that. So you can imagine all those different pieces of that. Thought I better get your section in there too. Well, and water resources, all of this, in fact, all three agencies are going to be pushing to see that everything's metered and needs to be so that we can get that saved water component.
Absolutely.
And then, work down through all those steps, because as you might imagine, a farmer, a family business operation, gathering all that information on their own, that's going to be a long, hard pull. But if this can be put together, so Representative Owens is running a request for appropriations for funding to UDAF and Department of Ag and, Extension and water rights to put together the how-to manual.
Awesome. Oh, that's great.
That was a suggestion for support for that RFA, by the way.
I figured. That was good. Soren, go ahead.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, I'm here in Laura Briefer's place today. But this was really fascinating, Hannah. Thank you for the presentation. I assume the slides from the presentation will be available following the meeting. There's some great information. I'd love to make sure we have an opportunity to share. While our watershed around the Jordan River doesn't include a lot of really large-scale agricultural operations longer, and what does exist is rapidly being converted into homes and yards and things like that. We have within the broader watershed, we know a lot of opportunity through this ag optimization to see more water in the Jordan River and consequently in Great Salt Lake. So we've been watching this optimization project with great interest for many years as it's been underway. And it's great to get this update, and we'd love to share some of this information with our council, who I think will be interested in it. One question that I do have, while there's not a lot of remaining large-scale agricultural operation in the Jordan River watershed, there are a lot of agricultural operations happening. Sometimes that they're at the scale of a homeowner or a small business. There are a lot of nurseries and things like that that continue to operate in Salt Lake County. And I'm curious if there are applications. I'm not expecting that we would see applications for the optimization funds, but I'm curious to know if there are lessons learned through the agricultural optimization program that's going on that could have application for small scale, small business operations, nurseries, and food producers that are happening, on a few acres, 3 or 4 acres, or even homeowners that are doing agricultural production on their own lots. We see a number of homeowners, even as small as a 1/4 acre, that do a fair amount of food production, that are often doing it without a lot of knowledge about how to use water efficiently. So I'm just curious if there are scalable ideas that can come from this ag optimization that can be shared broadly for people that are producing food at very small scales that would still be beneficial in terms of being efficient with the use of water.
Wonderful question. Thank you so much. We fully anticipate doing that. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to look at the invasive species dashboard that the Department of Ag has. It's a really cool dashboard about all of the invasive and noxious weed work we're doing. And through Department of Ag with water optimization, we're looking at trying to put that very public-facing dashboard together about the projects. What's the best science? What are we working on? What are we learning? And oftentimes those small-scale landowners are more efficient even in their production and have the opportunity to be so because they're on a smaller scale. And so sometimes we're learning from them as well on how, it kind of goes both ways. But we'd be happy to share if you have producers that are interested just in reaching out and want to visit, maybe farm tours or anything like that. We'd be happy to share whatever information that we can that could benefit them. Through Department of Ag and Food, we have a lot of other programs that can directly benefit them through our soil health program or our pollinator program. So we would love to just connect with them in general in our conservation world and say, here's what we're doing at Department of Ag that still is applicable to you regardless of scale.
Great. Well, we'll make note, and I know our chairs here, I think it'd be fascinating to have you come and share a presentation.
Yeah, I would love to.
With our Watershed Council at some point in the near future.
Okay.
Thank you, Hannah.
Love to. Thank you.
Thank you, Soren. Okay, we appreciate Hannah's presentation. We invited her to give a presentation, not we, I guess somebody did, to the Weber River Confluence Conference a couple weeks ago, last week. And that went very well. So appreciate Hannah doing that for us here as well. So thank you. All right, moving on. The next item on the agenda is discussion of future council meetings and tours or creation of subcommittees to do things. So I think Sterling was the one that brought this up originally about the opportunity of discussing some of the future topics that we want to bring up to the council, and possibly some tours that we can get more educated on what's going on out there in the state. So now's the time for any of your comments or discussions on that.
One topic that this is Sterling Brown. One topic that comes to my mind here is having served on a local council, and of course this council, my initial observation is those on the local council, generally speaking, are boots on the ground and see where projects are needed. But maybe this council is in a greater position to convey funding resources, similar to what we just saw from Hannah. And of course, there's other options out there. Can there be some state council presentations or education efforts that specifically address and educate on funding, real practical funding opportunities that the local councils can grab hold onto and implement, or how does that work in these councils? Is it the local council that is to apply for funding and of course use the funding, or is these councils built in a way where that's out of bounds and it's someone else that addresses that? You know, some of those kinds of funding and getting the funding to the project, right. Some of that discussion comes to mind.
Yeah, good thoughts. So currently, this council, the State Watershed Council, does not have funding authority or funding mechanisms at all. And I know there's some legislation that's been kicking around that may give that opportunity, but currently it is not. But that being said, it is all about the local watershed councils coming to this council, reporting any issues or needs or maybe even changes in legislation that they would recommend, or if as they bring issues that brings up maybe topics of legislation that could be altered to help them out. So there's a lot of those types of things. So in my mind, it really is all about the local councils coming to this council and giving us a report on what they're seeing out on the field and in their watersheds, and some of the things that we need to understand so that we can convey that to the legislature when we give our annual reports to them, at the very least, as well as other help that we can facilitate possibly.
I remember 2-3 meetings ago, Warren Peterson tried to liken this council and the local councils to the transportation organizational structure, and I forgot what that's called, Warren, but
with the MPOs,
yes.
Regional
Yep.
MPOs and the roll-ups.
Mr. Peterson, into the mic, please.
You know, a lot of times it's better if I don't have a microphone. So, yeah, you're just likening it to the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organizations, that have been set up that feed in their information to UDOT. So
you still stand to that comparison? You feel like the two institutions should be or are similar?
Well, I think there's a model there that we can learn from, but water's a lot different, isn't it? Because the ownership, for instance, of most of the water systems is something other than the state or a local municipality. So we've got where water systems are owned by a wide range of people, and I'd argue that we should have been doing something like this with water before we even did it with transportation. But hats off to the people who have been doing water management over the last century and a half, because they've made it so easy that people haven't had to worry about this sort of thing. But we're to a different juncture in history now. I went off on a editorial opinion in response to your question, Sterling.
You're using my 3 minutes here. Well, I obviously I took note of that comment several months ago, and I too feel like there are some strong similarities between the two bodies there. And Mr. Chairman, obviously this council each meeting is growing in size, and
it is,
and becoming more anchored in our legislative mandate here. But if I'm hearing in your voice that we are now of maturity as a state council to start receiving and acting on our not policy responsibilities, because we don't have that, but our muscle to go to the legislature, if I'm hearing you right, and
Correct.
start asking for X amount of dollars to go towards X projects. Is that correct?
Whatever that request is, yes, that we can pass that on to the legislature, whether it's actual changes in rules or looking for funding, we can make those recommendations. Absolutely. I guess just to step back just a little bit, we want to make sure that these meetings that we have quarterly right now are meaningful and interesting for the dozen plus, almost 24 people that are asked to attend these meetings every quarter. So that involves all of our interests, I guess, that we need to make sure that we have some of those things going on and make sure that they're meaningful. So the local councils, and we probably ought to have a schedule of local councils that report to this council, because we're not going to be able to do it all in the same meeting. Have a rotation of those local councils presenting to this council and going into some detail about those watersheds to help us better understand what's going on. I have no idea what Mike is dealing with down in southeast Utah compared to what's going up in the Bear River. So it would be very informative for us to do that. But I also have probably a dozen or more ideas for future presentations that we can look at. One of them was the one that was presented today. It was the agricultural optimization program. Things like that would benefit us if we understood them a little bit better. And so we'll look at those presentations as we go forward as well to make sure that we've got some things on the agenda that make sense.
And not only does hearing from local councils here report in terms of their interest for funding and projects, but it also helps other councils hear what other councils are doing to help strengthen and broaden our thinking. And
absolutely,
it's a win-win kind of sharing of communication there. The Utah Lake Council, whom I represent in this body, we were certified in June or July, and we made a goal as a council then to come to this council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Come to this council at our 1-year anniversary with some recommendations.
Awesome.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you're serious about putting us on the agenda, maybe at the next, or maybe 2 meetings from now,
June timeframe.
We're certainly optimistic and feel that we're in a good position to come and start showcasing our work.
That's great. That's good to hear. And really the onus falls back to the local watershed, especially the representative on this council, to make sure they go back to their own councils and say, yeah, they expect us to come up with some interesting things or discussions on what our issues are. So that's great to hear, because that's exactly what we need to do for sure. Any other discussion? Warren, yes, please.
It's taken me this many times to learn to turn the microphone on, but think forward to what the output from this group is intended to be, and it is policy direction for water across the state. And keep an eye on the legislation coming out, because there are additional functions that this council will probably be assigned to do in the planning arena. So it's, I just endorse the track you're on. I'm very encouraged by what you've just said.
Great. Good. Dan, did you have a comment you'd like to make?
Just wanted to add, whoa, that's loud. Okay. This week, interestingly enough, I was contacted by several different entities about doing Western States Watershed Council coordination. And so I was able to hop on the Southwest Collaborative's call, which is made up of Arizona, New Mexico, and now Colorado. And it's all their watershed councils. And they have an annual meeting, and they have this thing where they share with each other what they've learned, how to work with their legislature, or where they're finding funding, or looking at trends that they see happening with climate change or drought or whatever. But it's really exciting that we're to this point of maturation with watershed councils in Utah, because our neighboring states have been doing it for a while, are now starting to look at thinking large landscape, thinking Western. And I also had some interesting conversations with Department of Interior about there's going to start being some more trends about looking at large landscape beyond just states. When we look at funding and doing large landscape projects. And the heart of all those is watershed councils. So it's pretty exciting, and it'll be interesting for us. I'll keep reporting back on what I learn on that. But
very interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially where we have, some of our watershed councils that are right on state lines, or have aquifers that go out of the state, or Bear River, things like that. This will be really interesting to watch. So.
Great. Thanks for that report, Dan. Thank you. So at this point, Soren, did you have something, Dan?
Yeah, just one follow-up item. I think this might be the right place to bring it up, not under the administrative item on the agenda. But we had an interesting discussion among the leadership of our Watershed Council. And Eric McCauley and I attended the Utah Lake Watershed Council meeting in December. It's interesting that the Great Salt Lake Council includes representation from the upstream, up the watershed councils that feed into the Great Salt Lake Basin. And so we approached Utah Lake and said maybe there's an important opportunity for us to have some connection. And I think we'll anticipate attending as just an interested stakeholder. The Jordan River watershed may be more interested in what's happening with the Utah Lake watershed because we're downstream, but obviously they're connected. And it's interesting, the Utah Lake Watershed Council also is represented on the Great Salt Lake, with the Jordan River being in between them. So I don't know that there's any changes that we make, but we have expressed some interest in having a more formal connection maybe at some point in the future with the Utah Lake Watershed Council, like we anticipate when the Great Salt Lake Council is organized, because there's connections. And the discussion also identified that there are other watershed councils around the state where there's this upstream, downstream kind of relationship that may be interesting. The Uinta Watershed Council obviously is connected to both of the eastern and western Colorado watersheds because of that relationship of being upstream and tributary to the Colorado River in southeastern Utah. So we just bring that up as maybe a point for discussion at some point in the future. If we think about right now, the act excludes state agencies, and because we exist because of a state Watershed Council Act, we don't have a formal seat at the table with the Utah Lake, but I think being part of those discussions is valuable. So I thought we would just share that as a point of discussion that we're having right now within our Watershed Council that might be of value to other watershed councils as they're being organized, and what those relationships between council watershed geographic areas might mean in the future.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that makes a lot of sense, where we do have overlapping and integrated watersheds and water delivery systems that affect each other.
I think to the comments that Todd just made, or Dan just made, about even interstate relationships and things like that.
That's exactly
kind of
why.
Interesting. Yeah. Along the same vein.
Very good point. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to just open it up, if we haven't already, open it up to the public for any comments or suggestions that they might want to bring to the council, online or in the room. Paul. Paul, go ahead. Paul Monroe.
Hey, yeah, I think Sterling maybe briefly mentioned a little bit of discussion about legislation. Just curious if what is proposed or what is known about legislation for these watershed councils at the time.
Warren, go ahead. Yes.
Look at House Bill 280.
Yes.
That's the big Casey Snyder kind of omnibus planning bill, but there's specific changes to the Watershed Council in there, and it's basically an enhancement of the Watershed Council role. So it's a lot of bill to read, but it's in there. I wish I could give you, Paul, I wish I could give you line numbers, but I don't remember it that well.
It's being adjusted daily, it sounds like. So.
It is, yeah.
So stay tuned, but yes, there are some things happening there. I don't know of anything else that's pointed directly at the Watershed Council, especially this council, that I know of. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Okay, not seeing any other comments. Administrative updates. Todd, what have you got there?
Okay, well, Soren discussed one of them already. I was planning to make mention of that interaction that took place at the Utah Lakes Watershed Council's last meeting, so thank you, Soren, for bringing that up. I think it is a good idea for these councils to cross-pollinate, and in that line of thought, we have been entertaining an idea to have a Watershed Council member training at the Utah Water Users Conference in St. George in March.
Oh, interesting.
So if we can swing that on short notice this time, we will invite members of this council and all the local watershed councils that have been established to come and participate in that training. Can't tell you exactly what training means, but there's lots of things that these councils have in common dealing with public issues of interest and maybe controversial things that might come up and how to handle those and things like that. So just wanted to mention that we're looking at opportunities, if not this time, definitely next March at Water Users or some other event that would be appropriate. A lot of people from these local councils, especially from the districts, would be at Water Users and could easily participate in that kind of an event. We are going to hire, finally, a Watershed Council coordinator in the next month or so. Thus far, Carly Payne and I have been splitting a lot of the duties for that. And if we have a full-time person that can help with the management of all these local councils that are now established, that'll be very helpful. So we're planning to do that. The reason we held off doing that right after the legislation provided us the FTE was we wanted to have someone help us organize these councils. And the Langdon Group's been doing an excellent job at that with us. But their work's coming to a close, so we're wanting to move forward with that. We have heard from at least one local watershed council that the quorum requirements or the voting, the majority of the council members have to be there to vote and take action, just like this council,
right,
is potentially a challenge.
I can see that.
There have been meetings here where that's been kind of a challenge a little bit, but we've been able to meet the quorum requirements without too much of a problem. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there that's potentially something that in the legislation might be good if that were revised to make it a little easier for these councils to operate.
Relax just a little bit. Okay. Yes, Marcel.
I guess I have a question on that one because I think we brought it up in one of I think it was the Bear River Watershed Council, the opportunity in their bylaws to allow for a proxy. Now that doesn't mean somebody's going to take the steps to do a proxy, but that is one way without changing the legislation, but to address the quorum issue.
Good point. Yes.
So that might be something you can offer up at least for now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in the template that we created, we didn't really address that specific issue very well, so maybe we could look at that. finally, this has been on my mind for quite some time, but now that we have a bunch of local watershed councils up and running, the idea of creating some sort of branding or logos for this body as well as local councils that create some branding, name recognition and what these councils are about. I thought that we probably could wing an RFP or some sort of bid to do some logo designs. And just wondered to throw that out there to see if there's any interest in this body having their own logo and maybe the local councils having one that's kind of a similar brand. And there are local representatives here, so I'd love your feedback too.
Any comments? Not a bad idea. I don't mind that.
I think the actual, I know the state map kind of shows all the different watersheds. Maybe that is kind of the state one, and then each one has their own outline of their watershed. Maybe
something like that. That's
start
what I envision.
a logo of some sort.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's a possibility. Anyway, if there's no objection to that, I think we might pursue something, and we'll have some stuff to share with you at some point in the future.
Great.
Okay. That pretty much sums up what I had. Carly, was there anything else that I missed? Okay. Looks like we're going to conclude early then today.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may, since Todd referenced that the Langdon Group is kind of wrapping up their work, I just wanted to say, express appreciation for the work they do. I had a chance to meet with Dan and a predecessor to Andy Langdon very early in the process of establishing the councils, Allison, and they've just been really supportive of our work and helping to find ways to navigate how to go through this certification process.
Yes.
It's been really amazing to see the work they've done. I just wanted to express appreciation from one of the local councils for their efforts over the last
That is
couple of
great.
years.
I totally agree. They spent a lot of time and effort getting the state council, let alone all the local councils, kind of kicked off and organized, and really appreciate that. I couldn't have happened without their efforts for sure.
Looks like we got Paul's hand raised online again.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, sorry everybody's, you mentioned that we're about ready to leave, and now I'm raising my hand, so apologize everybody who's ready to go. I want to echo too, appreciate the Langdon Group and helping us set up. I mean, we're out in the West Desert, and that of course that's a very big watershed. It's a long ways. And this is one other thing too that we've kind of brought up a little bit, and I don't know, Todd, if the division wants to look into this, but we've been using space at Twila City offices is where we've been meeting. And each time the Langdon Group has brought a owl device, just for those that are going to be meeting electronically, because it is such a big watershed. And the other side of that too is that our group we were the ones that had the issue with getting a quorum after, we've got a big group. We tried to fill all of those seats, and you had a lot of people that were really excited initially to jump on there. And then now we're kind of at a point where maybe just because it's winter and things are a little slower, they're not as involved. So kind of a two-part thing there. Appreciate you potentially looking in to see if we can lax some of those requirements for our group. And then the other part of it is, for our communications in the future, is there something the division might be able to do to provide some of those communication outlet things or whatever they're called to do those electronic meetings? Well, the city offices are good enough to let us meet there, or they just don't have those things on site?
Yeah, that is a good point, Paul. And we have the capability here with the DNR AV team. They've offered various levels of service for these councils and haven't yet determined what level of service we want to provide. But at a minimum, we could provide some Google Meet links, providing an actual puck or owl type thing that you can see video and audio. We'll have to see if that's something we could do, and with our area planning specialist attending some of these meetings, maybe we can wing that, but we'll see. we're looking into it. Hopefully we'll have some good options for you going forward.
So speaking of that, Todd, were there specific funds that were allocated to the council from the legislature to do some of these things that some of the local councils are asking maybe?
Yes, there was one FTE provided, so that would fund one individual. And at least at the first, we might not spend all that. So we can do some creative things. I think this training thing annually at water users is we could spend a little money doing some nice things there. We have built into that FTE a cost for travel and other expenses per diem for council members that have to travel a long way, and we hope we got that right. You never know with that. But so far that hasn't been a burden on our finances at all. So I think we're in a good spot.
Great. Good. Yes, Rick.
So
For all your efforts.
The Great Salt Lake Basin Council, I know that was, once all the local ones were set up, then how is that going to be funneled? I know everyone's trying to get that representative for that. What's the status of that next step?
On the Great Salt Lake.
I believe there's some proposed legislation to make the Great Salt Lake Advisory Council also the Great Salt Lake Watershed Council. So it would serve that dual role that they have, or the existing role that they have, in addition, be the Great Salt Lake Watershed Council. So we're looking to see if that's come out. I don't know if there's a bill that has that on. Maybe Warren knows more about that. Make sure you turn your microphone on, Warren.
The local council would still be represented in part of that entity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't change.
You see, this is teamwork. Andy turns my microphone off.
Yes.
Good man. How should we put it? There's a few different ideas floating on what should happen there. Should it look something like what was done with Jordan River, which I think is a great model? The Salt Lake, the Great Salt Lake Advisory, what is it called? Council, yeah. Doesn't have the same stakeholder diversity that the watershed councils do. So that's kind of the sticking point right now, is how to make that happen. If the two are brought together, and then certainly the efficiency of doing them as one. Our first applicant here for certification showed us how that can be beneficially done. So, but the last I heard, there were divergent ideas among potential bill sponsors, and we're not sure which way that's going to go. So
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
To Rick's question, is the local representation likely to be part of both of those diverging?
Yes.
Okay. I would think so.
Yeah, it might look a little different, but there will still be the local representation. And there's been a couple of folks that have been saying rather loudly, listen, you gave us the template. We have these local councils being represented on the Great Salt Lake Council. We need to honor that. And so that's kind of where, I don't think there's a dispute over that. It's just a question of how to make that happen.
Are those numbered bills, or they're still in process?
They are not numbered bills.
Okay.
Yeah. So far, there's nothing even on paper that I know of, but, well, there's no digital document yet.
All right. Any other comments? So just a heads up, in addition to the schedule of reporting local councils, I think at this meeting, every council meeting, state council, there ought to be a report, a very brief report from each council, or at least a space for allowing them to report any issues that are going on. We can't wait for once a year to listen to the council. So I think it'd be wise to just be prepared, the local councils, to come with any issues that you might be seeing in your local councils. So. All right, next council meeting, April 4th, 1 to 3, here at this meeting place. So let's see if I've missed anything here. Not that I know of. So we'll entertain a motion to dismiss.
Second.
Motion and second to call it a day. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Safe travels back.